Senator Buck Newton, who is a Republican candidate in the Republican primary for the Attorney General's race here in North Carolina. Good morning, Senator Newton.
Good morning, Henry.
How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing well.
Am I right? Your district is Wilson, part of Nash, and part of Johnston County?
Right. That's right. You got it exactly right.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well.
And now you're running for statewide office, Attorney General. How's that going?
Very, remarkably well. Campaigns are always difficult, but things have been going very well. We were really excited and a little surprised at how well people are responding to our message, and it's been a lot of fun actually to get around the state. It's a wonderful state. It's a big state. I can tell you it takes 4.5 hours to drive from Hendersonville to Wilson, North Carolina. it's a big state, but folks are great. It's interesting. No matter what end of the state you visit, you find that generally, even though their accents might be different, folks are the same everywhere you go. They're hardworking. They care about their family. They care about who's playing on TV. They all the same things. Everybody's got a crazy Aunt Sally. Everybody's got a cousin Bob who can't find a job. It's the same everywhere you go. It's kind of encouraging.
It's interesting. We people who run for statewide office from Eastern North Carolina, we have we have a record of success, and we've had Bev Perdue, Mike Easley, current Attorney General Roy Cooper, who grew up in Rocky Mount and practiced law in Rocky Mount.
That's right. The only problem with that is they're all Democrats.
I know. We really haven't had. Well, here's the problem: there weren't many Republicans that came along as Republicans.
That's right.
30 years ago.
That's
so
right. That's right.
maybe you'll be the first statewide Republican.
Yeah, I'm hoping to change that. I'd like to be the first elected Republican in over 100 years.
Yeah.
So,
well, the climate is right for you. So
I hope so. I think the reason why those other officers that you mentioned in the past have done so well is, statewide candidates need to do well in the East in order to win that election, and I think that's one of the advantages I have in this race is with my time in office and my record. Folks down east know who I am. They kind of see me as one of them, which is what I am. I'm from Wilson, and so I think I can speak their language and understand their concerns. So
we have one of your constituents in the studio this morning. Our producer Mike Buscemi is from Wilson. So Mike, I'm going to grant you one question. So think about what it is you want. I'm going to grant you one question to your state senator. You want me to tell you what it's going to be? Why are my taxes so high? It's going to be something outrageous like that. No, think of a good question. You have a consultant. Maybe somebody can help you with that question. I'm going to give you one question. Here's my first big question to you. Let's start with some. Let's start with some news of the week. Transgender bathrooms.
Wow, yeah.
The governor says.
Can you believe it?
The governor says he's going to ask the General Assembly when you come back for the short session in April, and you'll still be in the General Assembly.
Yes.
You're still in your current role as state senator. He's going to ask the General Assembly to override the decision by the Charlotte City Council to allow transgender bathrooms, which means a person who identifies as someone of the opposite sex can use that bathroom. Now, first question, before I ask you your opinion of the transgender bathrooms, should the General Assembly be in the business of overriding local governments like the Charlotte City Council? Is this going to open the door to other things?
The short answer is yes. Under our system of government here in North Carolina, our Constitution, the cities, municipalities, local governments are creatures of the state. It's important that we have a uniform system of regulation and law enforcement. So, for example, what's against the law in Charlotte ought to be against the law everywhere else in the state of North Carolina. And what's against the law in Wilson ought to also be against the law in a city like Charlotte. So the problem with this so-called ordinance is, one, the city of Charlotte had no authority to do what they're doing. They just, it's a fact. I mean, it's just very
why is that? Are you talking about on a legal level?
On a legal level,
why?
I'm absolutely talking about that. They don't have the authority. The state has not granted the cities, including Charlotte, the authority to regulate such matters.
Gotcha.
There's a uniform code for bathrooms. There's a uniform criminal law for things like, say, indecent exposure. And we should not have a patchwork of regulations and laws around the state. I mean, if I go visit Charlotte, I should expect the rules and the laws in the bathroom to be the same in Charlotte as they are in Wilson or Greenville or Morehead City. Mm-hmm. And that's when you get on a legal level, which running for Attorney General, that's something that is strongly in my mind when I look at these things. It ought to be uniform around the state, and that is why we should expect our current Attorney General to do something about it. That is why the governor and the legislature and many of us in the legislature have been saying what we've been saying about it. It's not just the insanity of the issue itself, the craziness of what Charlotte's trying to do. It's the fact that they just don't have this authority, and that's why they're doing it. Is they're trying to push this agenda as hard as they can.
So a transgender person should go to the bathroom where?
Well, my personal opinion is that they ought to go where their chromosomes tell them that they go. My personal
way
opinion.
Of putting it. They're chromosomes.
Well, chromosomes don't lie. I mean, my personal opinion is, God created us the way we are, and I understand that there are people. There are many people who have emotional problems and confusion, and I have sympathy for folks who are struggling in that way. But I think we have to have society operate at a certain level of consistency. And the problem with Charlotte's rule is that it opens the door for abuse by people who are not legitimately suffering with that kind of I guess gender identity crisis.
Yeah,
it
should be no surprise that we actually do have perverts.
Well, interestingly,
and somebody could take advantage of that, right? I mean,
I'm glad you brought that up. One of the leaders for this policy is a convicted sex offender from South Carolina, indecent liberties with a minor under the age of 16. I mean, that's a fact. One of the leaders for this effort has this record. Mm-hmm. What does that tell you? I mean, it would be very, very, very easy for predators to utilize this new policy and abuse it. And I'm not going to let my daughter go in the bathroom in Charlotte until this is straightened out.
Buck Newton, the state senator from here in eastern North Carolina and candidate for Attorney General. One more legislative question for you.
Sure.
The legislature came back and redrew the congressional districts last week. The General Assembly ratified the new districts on Friday. The three-judge Court of Appeals panel will look at this and decide if they're going to move forward or not. I read a lot of the comments out of the legislature that you folks are convinced that these new districts will be upheld and meet the criteria that the courts are asking you to meet. But there's some people that think that might not happen. How confident are you that these new new congressional districts are going to be approved by the Court of Appeals?
Honestly, I'm not very confident at all, and
no kidding.
And I'll tell you why.
Interesting.
The court, this three-judge panel, didn't follow the law when they overturned the first districts, which were following the Supreme Court precedent, and that's why every court until this one had upheld these districts. So their order that they ordered us to redraw the districts basically said you can't use race at all. And while that might be a preferable policy for many people, and I certainly would like it to be that way, that's totally inconsistent with the Voting Rights Act, which requires some level of considering race in order to try to draw minority-majority districts. And so we didn't consider race at all because that's what the court ordered us to do. So I really am not sure what's going to happen. And I wish I could give people more sense of confidence that things are set now, but I really can't.
So you believe then that this is political?
I hate to say it, but yes, I absolutely do.
Which means that this three-judge panel could come back
Absolutely.
and write the districts themselves.
Absolutely.
And then what happens?
There are a number of us that are predicting that that's what they'll do.
And then
that's what they're
will the
intending
state
to do.
take that to the Supreme Court?
Absolutely.
And so the Supreme Court of the United States will decide the congressional districts and who we vote for Congress in North Carolina.
I think that is entirely likely. This is not the first time.
So
either.
then this new date of June 7th for a primary, we may not have it on June 7th either.
I think that it is more likely that we will have that date.
Yeah.
The question as to whether, or something close to that, the question of whether or not we'll have these districts, though. I think it's more likely than not that we will have these districts, but I still think there's a very good chance that it'll be something else.
Senator Buck Newton in the studio. You got like 2 minutes with us, Buck.
Sure.
Why should people trust you to be the Attorney General of North Carolina? Why are you running?
Wow, I really appreciate that question. Thank you, Henry. The short answer is that I've got a proven record in the last 5.5 years in the North Carolina Senate. I'm strongly pro-life, strongly pro-Second Amendment, on down the line. We need an Attorney General who has proven that he is able and willing and capable of standing up and fighting to protect the laws of this state, standing up and fighting to protect this Constitution, the Constitution for this state and for the United States. And we haven't had that out of our current Attorney General. He's taken a pass every opportunity he can, and I'm the only candidate in this race that has proven that he's willing to do that and has the ability to do that. And that's why I'm in this race. We need to rebalance the relationship that we have with the federal government under our Constitution. We have a serious imbalance with the federal government trying to basically intrude in our lives in every way they can. If I can make a really quick example, this transgender bathroom issue that we were talking about earlier. A lot of people don't realize that our current U.S. Federal Attorney General's Office, the Department of Justice, is suing school districts around the country right now, trying to force this agenda through the courts onto North Carolina and other states. And Governor McCrory had to go out and hire private attorneys in order to try to participate in that lawsuit to stop it. Because Roy Cooper won't do it.
Yeah.
And so I think folks are realizing that this office is very important, and it means a lot to the state of North Carolina to have someone who's willing to stand up and protect them and protect their rights. And that's what I'm going to do.
Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you, Henry.
It's great
I appreciate
to see you.
having
Great
me.
to see you again.
Thank you.
Always great to see Buck Newton, our state senator from Wilson, Johnston, and Nash counties, running for Attorney General in the March 15th. And your primary is March 15th.
March 15th, and voting starts March the 3rd.
Wow, it's almost here.
It's right here.
Almost here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Buck.